Oh, Jon Snow. Harder to kill than a steel-plated cockroach on meth that bleeds acid. Yes, folks, I am the Mighty Plantain. Thanks for checking out this video, and we are looking at something a little special today. This is Johnnie Walker's White Walker Edition. It's got the Game of Thrones tie-in, if you're familiar with the show. Distilled, blended, and bottled north of the wall. If you freeze it, you get the nice winter is here, and I guess the rest of the graphics on the label change a little bit. And they do recommend that you freeze this. It says here, White Walker by Johnnie Walker is a blended Scotch whiskey inspired by these chill-inducing walkers. At the heart of the blend are single malts from Cardew, probably mispronouncing that, and Clonelish, probably mispronouncing that as well, one of Scotland's most modern distillers. This whiskey is chill filtered to 1.5 degrees Celsius and best served cold directly from the freezer. So, I was first under the impression, because I didn't read all the media on it, sorry, that this was just going to be Johnnie Black in a special bottle for the whole thing, but it does sound like it is in a different blend, which is kind of cool. These Game of Thrones tie-ins have been kind of hit or miss for me. I've had a couple of the brewery Ommegang beers, and they were decent beers, but they weren't anything all that wild. The Game of Thrones red wine was just awful. I'm not a big wine fan anyway, but they basically just took a wine, did it up. It was done in a small batch by some master winemaker, but they just slapped the Game of Thrones label on it, and for me, it wasn't a great product to begin with. But, again, I'm not a big wine drinker. So I've got high hopes for this one. As a matter of fact, the best Game of Thrones tie-in, I guess you could say, is one that isn't even an officially licensed one. It's Liquid Riot, local Maine brewery, has a beer called A Beer Has No Name. Obviously a reference to one of the famous lines in the show. And that IPA, I believe it was an IPA, it was a great fucking beer. So, this being an actual special edition of Johnnie Walker, I've got some high hopes for it. I'm a fan of the show. Yes, I held out for a long time, didn't watch it, finally did. I'm all caught up, waiting for the final. Next season's the final season, if I remember right. And, yeah, it's a damn good show. Check it out. Well, that didn't break apart like I thought it would. So, they do cite a couple of the most modern, well, one of the most modern distilleries in Scotland. So, I'm a little curious as to how long these were all aged. A typical Johnnie Walker incorporates, at least in the black, incorporates single malts that have been aged at least 12 years on average. And this doesn't mention how long any particular one has been aged. Let's see. Once forgotten and reduced to ancient legend, White Walkers have emerged from the frozen north, bringing with them the chill of winter and the promise of terror and destruction to all who stand in their path. With their tall blades of ice capable of slicing through iron and their silent, icy blue gaze, they are a chilling sight. When you see the undead coming, you know winter is here. Okay, so not really anything here that tells us how long they were aged. So that's interesting. I mean, I'm going to assume at least 8 years, because it would seem scandalous for them to have anything that was less than 8 years in any of their blends. It's definitely leaving a little bit of frost on the glass. Well, not frost, but just some condensation. Wow. That is sticking. It's got some great legs. It's sticking nice and evenly around the glass. I don't know how well that's coming through on the camera here, between the bad lighting in here and that little bit of condensation, but I'm going to try and get a good view of it. Try and get some up there, and then if you look, if it's coming through, it kind of sticks at the same level, and then whoosh, all kind of comes down at once. So it's got some great legs on it. It is a bit of a paler whiskey. I believe most Johnnies are a little bit darker than this. Maybe the platinum and the blue are lighter colored, but red and black certainly tend to have a little more color than this one does. That might be indicative of the fact that it hasn't spent as long in the barrels. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating there. So, but it is not a bad-looking whiskey. And I do like the effect that the condensation on the glass has. I'm sure it would be just as much the same with a glass versus the cheap-ass plastic thing. God, I cannot wait. And I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it until it's taken care of. I cannot wait to get my Glencairn glasses out of storage. I miss those damn things. It's actually got a sweet aroma with hints of fruitiness. I mean, there's obviously the whiskey smell underneath, but up front, sweet and a little bit fruity. That's interesting. Like maybe a tropical, or not really tropical, but a citrusy fruit, maybe like a sweet citrusy fruit, like maybe tangerine, maybe some apple. I don't know. Wow. Well, so far, I'm loving the looks of it. I'm practically transfixed by that condensation, the lighter color of the whiskey, and the way it clings to the glass. It's just, I can't stop looking at it. The smell is awesome. The more I'm sniffing it, the less of the booziness is coming through, the less of that whiskey aroma. So it's taking on this very pleasant aroma as well. I mean, it had it to begin with, but it's just getting more and more pleasant the more I smell it. So, so far, we're doing good with this. Let's find out what it tastes like. Oh, that chill. This might be something you want to grab and throw in the freezer and hang on to it till the show comes back on, and then just drink it while watching the show. Wait till the White Walkers first show up. And, you know, give yourself a little bit of atmosphere. With that chill, it's got a nice effect. The overall experience is good. In terms of flavor, the chilling takes a lot of the edge off from the alcohol in there. So it's got this nice undertone of whiskey, but it does have some sweetness that's developing into more of a caramel and slightly fruity flavor for me. It's odd, maybe a tiny hint of nuttiness on the finish. The nuttiness in a Johnnie Walker is kind of odd for me. I'm not sure. The tasting notes on the bottle, I actually avoided reading this earlier because I didn't want to go. Let's see. Featuring notes of caramelized sugar and vanilla, fresh red berries with a touch of orchard fruit. Okay. I got that more in the aroma than in the taste, but there is some of that sweetness and that caramel taste coming through in the actual taste. This whiskey develops in complexity as it warms to room temperature. Okay, so we'll let it warm up a little bit while we do this. Actually, it's probably closer to room temperature now. Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to be true of a lot of different drinks. Your heavier beers, even some of your lighter beers, whiskeys too. The chill tends to tamp down some of those more subtle notes in the flavor. Like a lot of porters and stouts, you want to kind of let them warm up to just below room temperature. So not quite your fridge temperature, but and it'll develop more flavors. I am kind of getting more of a berry flavor too, so that's kind of cool. Although there's always that question of whether or not reading the label and knowing what to expect that influences your palate. But again, I mentioned apples in the aroma. There's that orchard fruit. I am sure I'm getting a distinct berry taste now. A little bit of that apple flavors coming through too. So there's your orchard fruit. Overall, it is very complex. It's very nice. Again, I get the feeling it's not aged as long as Johnnie Black. Maybe as long as Red. I think Red goes at least 8 years. 8 and Black is either 10 or 12. I'd have to look it up. But like I said, I get the feeling it's a younger whiskey, but it does have some nice complexity to it that does develop over time as it warms up. I actually got some hash marks in the condensation. Might be an effect of it warming up, but it was kind of a nifty little look on the glass. I shouldn't have wiped it away so quick. I should have held it up to the camera, but I was wondering if maybe it was just the glass being cracked. It's not exactly an expensive piece of plastic I'm working with here. But overall, that is a very tasty whiskey, and it exceeds my expectations for a Game of Thrones tie-in. But then again, it's absolutely up to my expectations for a Johnnie Walker. So there you have it. It's awesome. Like I said, get yourself at least one bottle. Check it out. If you're not in a hurry to drink it, or if you have the money to throw down on a couple bottles, it's $40, $38.99 at my local store. Who knows, maybe you can find it in liquidation in a couple of months when they start pulling it off the shelves, because it's a limited edition, but they're not going to throw it out. But honestly, I'd get at least one now. Don't take the chance that you're not going to be able to find it later, because it is a damn good whiskey, and it does have some unique character to it. And whether you drink it all now or later, try to throw one in the freezer and save it for when the show comes back on. Like I said, I think this would provide a really nice overall flavor and flavor to the experience of watching the show if you wait till the White Walkers show up and then pour yourself a glass. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being corny or acting like some kind of dumbass fanboy, but I think it would be a unique experience. Kind of like the time I watched a documentary on how they make Jack Daniels in 3D while drinking Jack Daniels. So, there you have it. Anyway, I guess I've run out of things to say about it. Check it out. Hit me up down in the comments and the email link down below. Love to hear what you have to say about this whiskey. While you're down there, make sure to like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your notifications. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. Until next time, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. We've only got a few months left to wait. Cheers.